Late one morning in August of 2015, an anonymous user on 4chan revealed their detailed plan to rob a bank later that day. The user believed that they could steal thousands of dollars in cash and flee the city, all without getting caught. But to top it off, they also planned on keeping 4chan updated throughout the whole heist. However, unbeknownst to the users at the time, this thread would go down in infamy as one of the most legendary blunders in the history of the internet. From 4chan trolling the police to detectives attempting to track down the robber, to even other users trying to cash in the reward money, the story of 4chan robbing a bank is truly chaotic, and this is how it all began.
Okay, today's the day. I'm gonna walk into the bank at 3 p.m. with sunglasses, a hat, a sweater, a BB gun, and this note. I'll get out, dump the sweater and BB gun, and ride out on my bike back to the hotel. I'm serious, and yes, I'm using a proxy this time. Wish me luck.
Attached to the thread is a picture of the note that he planned to hand the teller once he got to the bank. Threads like these are nothing new on 4chan, and most of the time, it's just an anonymous user who is bored and looking for attention. Needless to say, users on 4chan thought that sharing intricate details of a robbery was absolutely ridiculous, and there was no way this guy was for real. However, one user recognized the original poster from another thread during the previous week, so they left a comment.
Keck, is this the same guy that said he was gonna rob a bank in Jacksonville? I thought you were gonna get 20K.
Apparently, when he claimed he was going to rob a bank the week before, 4chan was able to figure out exactly where this user was located, an apartment complex in Jacksonville, Florida. Although, for some reason, this didn't bother him much, and this time he bought a fake gun to show that he wasn't messing around. Having failed this once already, the pressure of backing out was getting to him, so about an hour later, he updated the post once again.
Drinking a little bit of liquid courage before the heist. Fuck me, I'll probably be a nervous wreck when I get there. It's bad enough I have anxiety.
At this point, it was revealed that the anonymous poster had the username of anondump. Although frowned upon on 4chan, he utilized something called trip codes, which essentially enabled him to have his own name in the thread. Anondump would continue to update the thread by sharing a countdown to the heist, and even making the mistake of sending the same message twice. 4chan was not impressed. Anondump clearly had too much to drink, or was just plain stupid, so one user made a suggestion.
Someone call the Jacksonville Police Department.
However, Anondump didn't seem to care, and he was more determined than ever to complete the heist. At this point, the time was now quickly approaching 3 p.m., and users on the thread were interested to see what would happen next. So Anondump gathered his BB gun, note, and disguise. He then headed outside to begin making his way towards the bank. It was showtime. Right when Anondump walked outside, he would update the 4chan thread once again.
What the fuck? Somebody stole my bike. How the...
Now, without a bike, it was clear he wouldn't make it there by the time he promised. And since he backed out of the robbery from the previous thread, he had a really difficult decision to make. Would he still go through with the heist, or would he back out once again? The thread would then go dark, and as time went on, many of the users would slowly leave, thinking that he had decided just to stay home. But some users would stay in the thread, believing that he would actually do it. So they waited. Then, something amazing would happen. 25 minutes later, Anondump posted once again in the thread, and this time it would absolutely blow up.
Easy as fuck. Here's another picture in neat little piles for you.
Users in the thread couldn't believe it. Anondump had successfully robbed the bank, and he was able to get back home, doing so all on foot. It almost felt like it was too good to be true. Because of this, some users were skeptical and had numerous questions about how he got away with it. So Anondump explained exactly what had happened.
Dude, I walked up to the teller with my sunglasses and hat. I gave her the note, she said no problem. Typed some shit on the computer, gave me the money, and I walked out the door. Then the exit wouldn't open, so I slammed it. Then it opened. I got rid of my sweater and walked to the hotel.
Even though it was an interesting story, that wouldn't be nearly enough for 4chan, so they demanded he send proof in form of a timestamp. They wanted to see a handwritten note that included the date and thread number with the cash in the back, so they would know for sure that he didn't Photoshop the picture.
Timestamp or fuck off.
Of course, Anondump sent in a timestamp, but because he didn't include the cash in the image, it was useless and didn't prove anything. 4chan was absolutely bewildered, and it amazed them that someone who completely missed the whole point of a timestamp could get away with a bank heist. After some hate from 4chan, Anondump did end up sending a proper timestamp, proving that he did in fact have the cash on him. Feeling like the Joker from Batman, Anondump let everyone know that he was calling a cab to flee the city. He also mentioned that they probably wouldn't hear from him for some time, because his phone was running out of battery, so he went offline once again. But while Anondump and 4chan were celebrating the victory, the case against him was already underway. And within the hour, they were able to pull the CCTV footage from the cameras in the bank. Anondump's disguise only consisted of a hat and glasses, which was not enough to conceal his face at all. Also, his outfit did little to hide his physical description, so the detectives were able to find his exact height and body build. But most importantly, he had communicated the entirety of his plan, including the timing, on a public forum which anyone could anonymously access. All the detectives had to do was go on 4chan and they would be much closer to finding him. The detectives would then give all the images to the local news and put out a reward of $3,000 for anyone who could provide information that leads to his capture. Though Anandam didn't know it yet, he was in a lot more trouble than he thought. The time is 11:05 p.m., about 8 hours after the heist. And even though Anandam had successfully made it out of the city, his face would be plastered all over the news. Along with this, the police were doing everything in their power to track him down. So in desperation, he would find a new hotel to decide what he should do next. With nowhere else to go, he returned online to 4chan and made a new thread announcing himself as the man who had robbed the bank, once again giving the detectives more valuable information.
Hey guys, guy who robbed a bank here. My face is on the news, and there is a $3,000 reward for tips leading to my capture. I'm scared. Robbing a bank wasn't worth it at all. I have like $4,800 left. I'm scared of leaving the hotel. I want to get the fuck out, but somebody may see me. I'm trapped. Why did this stupid Reddit guy make it look so easy?
Anandam posted a picture from an article of the actual robbery, which fully confirmed that this wasn't a hoax at all. He had actually done it. To make things even more interesting, the robbery was in Jacksonville, Florida, also confirming that 4chan had successfully tracked down who he was from the first thread. At this point, Anandam was in a really bad situation. He was running from the police, who were frantically searching all over for him. And to make things worse, the $3,000 reward was looking very nice to users on 4chan. Because of this, some of the users would submit the thread to the tip line in hopes they could cash in on the reward. But most users on 4chan were just shocked at his stupidity. Not only did he show his face during the robbery, but he was still posting literally everything on 4chan, and at this point, it was likely the detectives were already monitoring it. Even though Anandam had taken a taxi to get out of Jacksonville, he was still in the surrounding area and needed to get further away. So he decided to try to catch a Greyhound bus to get out of town. But after going to the bus stop, it was supposedly swarming with police, so he decided to take matters into his own hands. He would buy a chopper. No, not that kind.
Wait, maybe I could buy a cheap used motorbike. But my money.
Eventually, after realizing a helmet would be a good way to protect his identity while traveling, he started responding to ads selling cheap motorcycles. He also let 4chan know that he'd lost his backpack with his phone, which he had left outside for whatever reason. All of this was absolutely hilarious for the other Anons watching the thread, as Anandam's insane levels of incompetence were beginning to really show. To make things even worse, one of the users in the thread spotted something odd when looking over one of the screenshots Anandam had posted. A tab with My Little Pony opened.
OP is a fucking brony bank robber. My sides.
And he even went out of his way to defend his love for My Little Pony. But none of this changed the fact that he needed to get as far away from Jacksonville as possible. But as he started responding to online ads, he realized that getting a motorcycle might not be as easy as he initially thought. He even got desperate enough to consider an offer from another user in a completely different thread, who offered to sell him a used bike for $1,700. Yes, even at this time, he was browsing other 4chan threads and responding to various posts. However, it seems that nothing actually came of this, and just a few hours later, he was back in his own thread.
I'm running low on chips. I'll have to call and have someone deliver the and hope they don't snitch. I'll give them a good tip just in case. Still haven't heard back from those motorcycle ad emails. Not much else I can do but cross my fingers. I didn't like the wandering hitchhiking hobo idea.
A few minutes later, Anandam finally made up his mind.
Hold on a second. The cab fare would be $250. What the fuck was I thinking about motorcycles?
Anandam would then get in a cab, and about 20 minutes later, he would make one final update for 4chan, explaining that he believed his driver recognized him and reported him to the police. Just like that, the thread would once again go dark, but this time Anandam wouldn't return. Although many users thought Anandam was foolish, some actually cheered him on. Even though he was not the wisest criminal, it was good entertainment for 4chan, and some of them didn't want it to end quite yet. So a user named Blueberry would post this.
Guys, we need to find their tip line and feed them bullshit, try to help out OP if we can, and get the cops searching in the wrong place.
Even though some of the users were giving the detectives legitimate information in hopes they could get the $3,000 reward, there were also many users spewing off lies, trying to cause confusion so the police would have a harder time finding Anon Dump. This created chaos on the tip lines, and now the detectives had a ton of information to sort through, just to figure out what was real and what was made up. As time went by, there was still no word on what happened to Anon Dump, and users on 4chan were hungry for the ending of this legendary saga. But for now, the threads were beginning to die down, and they would have nothing else to do but wait and see. On September 2nd, 2015, about 2 weeks after the initial thread, a man in Gainesville, Florida was found and arrested in connection to the robbery that happened about an hour away in Jacksonville. The individual's name was Pedro Smith, a 26-year-old man from Miami, who was the top suspect in the investigation of the user who went by the alias of Anon Dump. Not much is known about how the detectives were able to find Anon Dump's true identity, or even how they found where he was hiding out. Speculation leads people to believe that someone from Jacksonville recognized him on the news and decided to cash in that $3,000 reward. However, it's also possible that a user on 4chan was able to find his true identity and give his information to the police. Regardless of what had happened, the police took him in, and he was now awaiting trial back in Jacksonville. The announcement of his capture quickly spread online after local news organizations reported on the event. Once he was caught, there were very few details revealed to the public, and it was largely handled out of the spotlight. Pedro was facing a sentence of up to 10 years for armed robbery, something that he was deeply afraid of. On September 20th, 2015, Pedro Francisco Smith was found guilty and sentenced to only 3 years in prison for robbery without a deadly weapon. But this just didn't make any sense. How did he get such a good deal after robbing a bank and hiding from the police for weeks? Some users thought he got lucky, while others think there was something else at play behind the scenes. However, after doing some research, there's just a bit more to the story that I believe has been overlooked. After he was released from prison on March 21st, 2018, his new residence was in a house worth $1.5 million in Miami-Dade. This is absolutely insane, because why would he steal around $5,000 if clearly someone close to him was that wealthy? The whole thing is just really strange. Now, I think it's likely his parents are rich, so they hired top-of-the-line lawyers to help reduce his sentence to only 3 years. For why he ended up robbing a bank and posting about it on 4chan? Well, it's possible he just wanted attention. But really, Anon Dump may be the only one who truly knows the real answer to that question.